know what's going to happen. But what I do usually expect to talk about is Tiny Desk. We talk about Tiny Desk often.
Yeah.
Some of us here are fans of Tiny Desk, and some of us are not. But
Right.
that's not the point here. The point is that recently, Lyfe Jennings came out and publicly stated that he was rejected from doing Tiny Desk by the
Yep.
Tiny Desk team, and he claimed that the reason why he was not selected was because he was not a big enough act. This actually surprised me when I read this, just right off rip. This surprised me because I was like, really? Because I don't see them trying to suppress uh, acts that are not as big. In fact, I think that the really huge acts don't do Tiny Desk. Um, so, and it also depends on who you think is really huge. I think we have had some huge Tiny Desk acts, but I think for the most part, the majority of the time, it's not the biggest stars that are at the tippy top of their game. So Tiny Desk said, "Hold up now." They said, excuse me, can I just talk to you for a second?" So apparently, according to Baller Alert, which I don't usually frequent, but this is where I found the story, so this is where we're getting it from. According to Tiny Desk, Lauren LaRosa of Brown Girl Grinding received a statement from a rep from NPR where they said that the Tiny Desk concert lineup is all about music discovery and inclusion. Um, they said the NPR music team curates the Tiny Desk concert lineup using their editorial discretion to ensure there is music discovery and inclusion, showcasing emerging talent as well as often as well-known artists. The team gets pitched by hundreds of artists, big and small.
They are not going to hear the ice cream truck in editing.
Being, being a big celebrity is no guarantee to getting a Tiny Desk, but it doesn't disqualify you either. Often it is about timing the artist's career and our own schedules. Our team is small with limited capacity to film approximately 10 shows per month. Unfortunately, we cannot accommodate every artist who would like to perform. Further, a source clarified that NPR never used the words not big enough, and it's not something they'd say to any artist. So, Tiny Desk responded. They said what they said. Lyfe Jennings said what he said. What do you think about this?
I don't really know how the Tiny Desk system works. I hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
I would have to agree based on what they said. It doesn't seem like they reject many artists. It seems like they try to give you a wide variety of artists on their platform. I've seen people up there I've never heard of. I've seen Usher up there. I've seen a wide range of people.
Yeah.
I also saw someone who is like 90 years old and is a jazz artist. And I think they do lots of different things. I don't know their reason for saying no to Lyfe Jennings. Um, but I think it's good they don't use the words not big enough because yeah, that's not a nice thing to say.
No.
And that I'm glad they clarified that point because that point was what stuck out to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Because Lyfe Jennings may not be the biggest artist today, but at one point he had a huge following. He has a very solid first album. I believe it's the first album that everybody likes.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I don't think right. I don't think he's a small act in the grand scheme of things, but I could also see the flip side where today nobody knows what Lyfe Jennings has going on, if he has anything going on. and so perhaps that makes them less inclined to put him on their platform. Um,
Yeah. Um. Yeah. I agree. I don't. I've never thought to myself, in all of the things that we've talked about having to do with Tiny Desk and whichever episodes I did watch or um, didn't watch but knew about, I never thought to myself that there was a one size fits all type of selection process. It doesn't
right,
seem that way. Sometimes it's culturally motivated. Like for Hispanic Heritage Month, you might see more Hispanic artists, or for Black Music Month, you might see more Black artists. But for, I don't know, Bluegrass Month, you might see more bluegrass artists during that time. Whatever it is, right? Um, Anniversary of hip hop, you might see more hip hop artists. So I think that they do try to curate it in terms of how can we make this culturally relevant, but
right.
but I think that probably dictates their selection a lot more, and especially today, because I'm sure in the beginning it was kind of just like, hey, who do you guys want to do this? It seemed, we've talked about the origins of Tiny Desk, and it seemed like it came from just people who loved music and had a love for music and wanted to see that style of performance. It didn't really seem like, oh, we have to do this with the biggest act and in fact, I think they probably, I to me it seems like they probably not want the biggest act, because there's so much pomp and circumstance that would have to go along with that. um we're not seeing our hugest stars these days, like in, I don't know, um oh gosh, what was at BB King's.
There is no more BB Kings.
I know that. That's why I said
Oh,
what was, because I know. But back in the day, that was a really big thing, right? But my point is, certain types of artists you wouldn't find there. If BB King's was open today, you probably wouldn't find them there. They're somewhere, doing a Vegas residency, or they're doing this, or they're doing
okay, I
that.
see what you're saying.
So my point is, like, a smaller venue, if you will,
Hmm.
just to me doesn't seem like that's what it is. I know that there are certain anomalies, like an Usher, right? That's, you know, Usher was on it when he was on a different plane. So I get it, but I've never taken it that way. I've never thought that that's what they were doing. Um, Furthermore, I actually have a problem with Lyfe Jennings doing this. Now, I would eat my words if we saw proof that someone had been disrespectful towards him, or there was some evidence that there was just simply foul play. But I think that sometimes we forget that private entities are allowed to do as they please. And while we expect businesses and entities that we support to act with integrity, we don't really get to dictate to them how they run their show.
Right,
You and I could sit here and decide, if we decided we're doing guests, we could pick and choose who we wanted to be on our show, whether we like them or not. We could
right.
take whatever criteria we wanted to use, or we could have no criteria, and we would still be correct in what we chose because it's our show. I think
Sure.
sometimes we forget that, yes, you may have wanted to be a part of this, but they're not obligated to do so.
No,
And
they're not.
And the fact that they're not obligated to do so, I don't know if it's fair to immediately say that, oh, you just weren't, I just wasn't big enough. Maybe you didn't meet the criteria. Maybe you didn't meet the time frame. Maybe it was like, I just don't, I feel like that happens a lot where people think that just because you don't like something, just because your opinion is different of something, that you should have it your way. And they're an actual company that can make choices and decisions as they please. Now if he came out and said that they were doing something that somehow defied uh cultural and social norms, or they were disrespectful, or they were racist, or they were this, or they were that, then okay. But to me, this just feels like your feelings were hurt, so you acted off of that. And I get it, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like, okay.
No, yeah, you're right. They are a private entity. They can do what they want. Um, and there's truly only one company that allows you to have it your way.
And even that, they give you you got like a preset selection of goodies, right?
It's like,
It's technically not your way. It's almost your way.